This is weather briefing number 3 by Mehrens Nolte. Looking at the 12-hour weather prog chart, you can see that there is some IFR off the coast of California and Oregon, along with the area of Lake Superior and part of northeastern Wisconsin. Looking at areas of marginal VFR, you can see that over the state of Washington, both of the Carolinas, and most of Wisconsin, those areas are experiencing weather that is marginal VFR due to either ceilings or visibility. Over Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa, where all of those states sort of meet, there is some moderate turbulence from the surface to 8,000 feet. There is also some turbulence that is going to be experienced over northern New York from the surface to 8,000. Looking at the freezing level, none of the United States is experiencing a freezing level at the surface. It is all above 1,000 or 12,000 feet mean sea level. Looking at the 24-hour weather prog chart for Monday, July 10th at 18 Zulu, you can see that the weather drastically improves over the entire United States, with the IFR conditions being isolated to being only over the coast of California, and the marginal VFR weather is only in the Wisconsin and part of Michigan area. Furthermore, the turbulence is just over Ohio, and it is from the surface to 10,000. Looking at the high-level prog chart, you'll notice that there are a few places of turbulence. The one to the furthest northwest is from the surface to 36,000. The one in the middle, where Montana and the western half of North Dakota would be, is from 29,000 to 38,000, and the one that is south of the Great Lakes is from 25,000 to 41,000. And those are all moderate turbulence. There are also a few major spots where there are cumulonimbus clouds. One, the most northern one, has cloud tops of 34,000, and the one that is south of the Great Lakes states has its top at 42,000. On this section of the map, the lowest place of the tropopause is over Lake Hudson at 19,000 feet mean sea level. The next lowest is over British Columbia and that area, and it is at 28,000. This map also shows a few jet streams. One over the Great Lakes at 40,000, that is 90 knots. One over the Atlantic east of New York, which is at 39,000, and that is 100 knots. And then there's one over Newfoundland, that is at 33,000, and it is going about, and it's going 100 knots as well. Looking at the convective activity or convective outlook, we can see that there is a great chance in the Midwestern states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois and it ranges out into the yellow where there is a slight chance and a marginal chance everywhere else surrounding that is also shaded. Looking at the convective outlook for July 10th at 5 a.m. to July 11th at 5 a.m., you'll notice that there are two areas where the occurrence of a convective activity is most likely. Those areas are over Illinois, Indiana, and Montana. And in between those two areas is a darker shaded area that covers Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri, and part of Iowa. And that those areas are also at risk for convective activity. Looking at the convective outlook for 3 days from now, the only area that has a real chance of having convective activity is eastern North Dakota, northeastern South Dakota, and most of Minnesota and part of western Wisconsin. These areas are at greatest risk, with some of the other northern states having a marginal risk of convective activity. Looking at the sigmets for the continental United States, you'll notice that all of the sigmets are convective sigmets for convective activity, with tops ranging from 40,000 to 46,000 feet. Looking at all of the air mets and the freezing level, you'll notice that there are really only 4 areas where there is air mets. The northern air met for IFR is for ceiling below 1,000 and visibility below 3 miles with mist. The one further south is the same thing. The turbulence the low turbulence over Wisconsin is from the surface to 12,000, and it is moderate turbulence. And then the turbulence that is high off the coast of the New England states is moderate turbulence from 30,000 to 40,000. As for the freezing level for the states of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, and part of California all have a freezing level at or above 1,600 or 16,000, and the rest of the continental United States has a freezing level above 1,200, with the exception of the peninsula of Michigan and part of actual Michigan, which have it just below 12,000. Looking at the area forecast, we can see that for western and central North Dakota, the clouds will be scattered high in the air, or the skies will be clear with the outlook of VFR. And for eastern North Dakota, we'll have scattered at 5,000 with a broken ceiling high up in the atmosphere. At 0 Zulu, we will have scattered with dense clouds high in the atmosphere. And at 3 Zulu, the skies will be clear with the outlook of VFR. Looking at the terminal area forecasts, you can see that there is not a lot to them, which means that the weather is going to be kind of boring. For Grand Forks, we have current conditions, or near current conditions. We will have plus 6 miles of visibility broken at 5,000, and then after 3 Zulu on the 10th, we'll have wind coming from 010 at 5 knots with more than 6 miles visibility and few clouds at 25,000. And then we'll take a quick look at the winds aloft at Grand Forks. At 6,000, we have wind coming from 340 at 16 with a temperature of 13 degrees Celsius. And we're going to skip up to 12,000 feet, where we have wind coming from 320 at 20 knots with a positive 2 degrees Celsius temperature outside, which means that the freezing level will be just above 12,000 feet.